In August 2011, a man was filming a mountain stream during a trip through Colorado's San Juan Mountains when something unexpected entered the frame. At first, he thought it was a bear. Then he realized it appeared to be a very large figure walking upright through the landscape. The figure was dark-colored and clearly visible against the surrounding area, leading to speculation that it could have been Bigfoot. However, the footage raised some questions. The camera never zoomed in on the figure, and then the recording suddenly stopped. A couple was hiking through a forest when they started hearing strange noises around them. They began recording the sounds, and that was when they noticed something in the distance. They slowly left the area, unsure of what they had seen. The figure was too distant to identify clearly, leaving open the possibility that it was simply an animal. Would you stay to find out what it was? This photo shared on Facebook claimed to show a large figure moving across the mountains of South Mountain, Arizona. The person who shared it believed the figure could have been a Bigfoot, a giant, or even a man standing somewhere between 15 and 20 feet tall. From a distance, the shape appeared unusually large against the rocky landscape, but the perspective made its actual size difficult to judge. The post also didn't provide much backstory, making the whole thing even more mysterious. TikTok user Carolina was walking her dog when she stopped to record the scenery. But after reviewing the footage later, she noticed a large dark figure moving through the tree line. Some suggested it could have been a gorilla or another animal, but there are no known wild primates living in the area. Others believe the figure resembled Bigfoot. The distance and surrounding trees made its actual size difficult to judge, though many thought it looked unusually large. It couldn't have just been a person, right? Two friends, Gary Spikes and Roger Williams, were hiking through land between the lakes in Kentucky. It was a normal hike, until one of them suddenly noticed something moving between the trees. They quickly snapped this photo. According to Roger, the figure was about 40 yards away, peeking from behind a tree. He said he watched it peek out twice before it disappeared back into the woods. Determined to find out what he had seen, Roger searched the area where the figure had been standing. He later reported finding 14-inch long footprints and said he heard something large walking away, with the tracks continuing in the same direction as the sounds. Roger also said he had experienced a clear daylight Bigfoot sighting in 1985, an encounter that inspired him to spend decades investigating similar reports. There is no verified evidence that the figure in the photograph was Bigfoot, but Gary and Roger remain convinced that something was watching them from behind that tree. A trucker driving through South Dakota captured this blurry image after seeing something human-like in the middle of nowhere. When he reviewed the photo, it appeared unusually large and broad, not like a normal human build. The distance and foggy conditions made it difficult to see exactly what he had captured. Still, the shape standing alone in that foggy field was certainly strange. This footage was shared by the channel Bigfoot King. While hiking deep through a dense forest, the person filming suddenly noticed a dark shape standing in the distance.
Okay, where are you? Straight up front. Straight up front. Right? Straight up front. Where? Right there. Right. Fucking there. You see that right there?
It appeared to be a large black humanoid figure. Hoping to capture a better look at whatever was out there, he carefully moved closer and managed to record one more brief glimpse before the figure became difficult to distinguish among the trees.
Right in. There's the ridge. Okay. Trees. It's so hard. I wasn't usually unprepared, but right there. Right there. Right there.
Unfortunately, it was still impossible to tell whether it was a person, an animal, or simply a combination of shadows and vegetation. But the figure, combined with the strange sounds, made the encounter difficult to ignore. A hunter scouting through the woods came across a set of railroad tracks when he noticed a strange figure standing in the distance. He stopped and quickly took this photo, capturing the dark shape near the tracks. Wondering who or what it could have been, he later shared the image online. Many people immediately speculated that the figure could have been Bigfoot. Unfortunately, the distance and potato image quality made it impossible to determine what had actually been photographed. But the hunter saw the figure with his own eyes, and it was unusual enough for him to stop and take the picture. If it had simply been another person, wouldn't he have realized that while he was there? And given that this was a hunting area, someone walking around in a bulky costume seems unlikely. A man was hunting in the woods when he noticed a huge figure moving between the trees. He quickly started recording as the creature walked upright on two legs. It appeared to be around 8 feet tall, with a large frame covered in dark fur. The height, posture, and appearance matched typical descriptions of Bigfoot, but it could have been a bear, a person wearing a costume, or simply an illusion caused by the distance and camera quality. The hunter, however, is convinced this wasn't normal. A Facebook user was hiking through a forested area of Florida when, out of nowhere, they noticed a dark figure running through the shallow water. They quickly managed to capture 2 photos, taken just seconds apart. According to the uploader, the figure appeared to be moving rapidly before disappearing from view. The poster believed it could have been a skunk ape, a creature from Florida folklore often compared to Bigfoot. A group of friends had been searching for paranormal activity in the woods late at night when they returned home without finding anything unusual. But as they pulled into the driveway, something moved around their car. They stopped, grabbed their phones, and pointed a flashlight toward the figure. A dark, fur-covered creature appeared standing near the vehicle, reportedly around 7 feet tall. It seemed to stare directly at them before the footage suddenly ended. Had something actually followed them home from the woods? A Reddit user shared a photo of their dog taken on a foggy mountain in Scotland. When they looked at the picture later, they noticed something unusual in the background. A large figure appeared to be standing behind the dog, partially hidden by the thick fog. Its size and shape quickly led some people to speculate that it could have been a Sasquatch. Others weren't convinced, pointing out that a creature like that would be unlikely to stand so openly in the middle of the landscape. It could have simply been another person, though the user insisted there was absolutely no one else around at the time. A young man was hiking out in the woods when he heard leaves rustling and footsteps moving toward him. He stopped and prepared himself while keeping his camera ready. The young man managed to capture a photo before leaving the area. When he later reviewed the image, he believed the figure had a conical head and large brow, which led him to claim it was a Bigfoot. I can see the resemblances for sure. A man was driving along a forest road when his children suddenly claimed they had spotted a Bigfoot. He initially thought they were mistaken, but when he started recording, a tall figure could be seen across the road near the trees, appearing to move through the forest.
Where's it?
The blurry footage made the figure difficult to identify, but its upright posture led him and others to believe it resembled a Bigfoot. I wish they had stopped to get a better look, though this might just be one of those Bigfoot plywood cutouts. Redditor McDurkin Durkenstein shared a photo he took one night. It showed two bright eyes glowing in the darkness. The figure itself was almost impossible to make out. Someone commented, "It's either a mundane animal or a terrible horror." Whatever those eyes belong to, the idea of finding them staring back at you in the dark is unsettling. A helicopter pilot reportedly filmed a large figure moving along a forest trail while dragging what appeared to be a body. Some believed the figure could be a Sasquatch. Others questioned whether it was simply a person dragging something, a staged scene, or even AI-generated footage. What's your verdict on this one? A man hiking near the Michigan border noticed something unusual while following a clear path through dense woods. As he looked toward the bushes beside the trail, he spotted what appeared to be a pale face. The shape had what looked like human and ape-like features, with only part of the face visible through the foliage. He quickly captured several photos and later believed they might have shown Bigfoot. However, the distance, vegetation, and limited visibility made the figure difficult to identify, but whatever he saw was enough to make him stop and take a closer look. From just that photo, it could have simply been pareidolia, but we don't know what he saw. Reddit user SasquatchInCO described a camping trip in Colorado's Lost Creek Wilderness, northwest of Pikes Peak, where his group began noticing several unusual signs. Near their campsite, they found broken aspen trees, patches of flattened grass, and a large stick structure spanning part of a creek. At first, they dismissed it as something natural or made by other campers, but that night, as they sat around the campfire, two members of the group noticed a bright yellow-white light briefly peek out from behind a tree about 20 feet away before disappearing again. They initially assumed it was a distant vehicle headlight, but after examining the area the next morning, they no longer believed that explanation fit. While investigating the strange stick structure, a rock suddenly splashed into the creek directly in front of them, even though no one else appeared to be nearby. Feeling increasingly uneasy, the group decided it was time to leave the area. None of the encounters could be verified, but the group left convinced that something had been watching them from the surrounding forest. A family in Washington state reportedly filmed a large figure walking across a river near Chinook Pass.
LeBron suit. Oh, he's there!
What made the encounter interesting was how calm everyone seemed to be. One of those videos where it's just really hard to believe it's real. A woman in Mexico had been losing chickens and eggs to something she had never managed to see. After several failed attempts to trap whatever was responsible, she decided to stay awake through the night and wait.
Vou ver que se o galinha tudo certo. Opa. Opa.
A little after midnight, she heard noises near the chickens and went outside with her camera. That's when she noticed its unusual shape. It appeared to have a humanoid body and stood more than 6 feet tall. The figure simply stared at her without moving. She eventually returned to her cabin and the creature did not follow. I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at though. What do you see? After a heavy snowstorm, a group of Bigfoot enthusiasts discovered a trail of unusually large footprints in the snow.
Yeah, I mean, the foot is melted away to make it look bigger. But look at the top of these right here.
Yeah.
Some of the prints appeared 2 or 3 times larger than a normal human footprint. As they followed the trail, they noticed that the footprints weren't all the same size. Alongside the larger impressions were several smaller ones, leading them to believe more than one creature had passed through the area. They suggested the smaller tracks could have belonged to a juvenile following a larger adult. However, melting snow can distort footprints and make them appear much larger than they originally were. But it's an interesting discovery. This photograph was reportedly taken near Fort McMurray, Alberta, during the 1970s. According to the story, a man riding a snowmobile suddenly spotted something large crossing his path. He quickly grabbed his camera and managed to take this photograph. The image appeared to show a dark, bulky figure moving across the snowy landscape. The forests and wilderness of Alberta have long been linked to alleged Bigfoot sightings, causing some people to believe this photograph could show the creature. Others, however, pointed out that there was a much simpler explanation. Heavy snowmobile clothing from that era could easily make a person appear much larger than they really were, while the blurry image and low winter light made it impossible to judge the figure accurately. So what do you think? Was it simply a person wearing bulky winter clothing? Or did the snowmobile rider capture something unexplained? A guide named Daniel Whitehead was walking through the woods near Baxter, Tennessee on October 26, 2022, when he suddenly noticed something standing between the trees. He quickly pulled out his camera and recorded a tall, dark figure before it disappeared from view.
Do you see that? Do you see that?
When the footage was uploaded online in 2024, many people said the figure looked like a Bigfoot, especially because of its height and unusually long arms. But the trees made it difficult to see exactly what Daniel had captured. Whatever it was, it definitely isn't easy to explain. A group of people exploring near the Kazakhstan border came across a cave with its entrance blocked by massive rocks. From inside, they heard a strange sound that resembled a deep roar with an unusual electronic quality. The noise was difficult to identify. Online, some people believe the cave might have been hiding something dangerous, like an unknown creature, but without any proof, we may never know. A man named Kevin Klima said he came face to face with what he believed was a Bigfoot while driving home from a cabin near Patchogue State Forest in Connecticut. Around 1:45 a.m. on July 5th, he claimed an enormous hairy figure suddenly crossed Wiley School Road in front of his vehicle, forcing him to slam on the brakes. Klimas estimated it stood around 8.5 feet tall, with broad shoulders, long arms, and a cone-shaped head. He said it crossed the road in just 2 strides before disappearing into the woods. He later reported the encounter to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, which classified it as a Class A sighting based on his account. No footprints were found because of the thick layer of pine needles. So did Klimas really see something, or was it all made up? A woman named Jean Hybert was walking through a forest in Ontario, Canada, with her husband on April 15, 2009, when they spotted something unusual about 50 to 70 yards away. Her husband believed the figure could have been a Bigfoot, and Jean quickly took several photographs before it disappeared into the forest. The images appeared clearer than many supposed Bigfoot photos. Despite that, the photos never became as widely discussed as some other alleged sightings. Their distance from the figure also made it difficult to determine exactly what they had photographed. It could have been a person, an animal, or indeed, a Bigfoot. Bigfoot researcher Peter Kane is known for claiming to have found multiple Bigfoot bodies. Recently, he shared this photo showing what he claimed was a Bigfoot head that had been cut in half. Inside, the supposed skull looked nothing like most people expected. The structure around the neck and spine appeared especially unusual. In fact, the spine seemed to run into the top of the head. Many people questioned the anatomy, suggesting the head was simply a model or another fabrication. Do you believe any of Peter Kane's claims are real? A woman was hiking through a forest after dark when she noticed something watching her from between the trees. She pointed her flashlight toward the movement and suddenly caught a pair of glowing eyes reflecting back at her.
Guys, that's a fucking dog.
Whatever was standing there didn't immediately resemble any familiar animal. Some believed it was simply wildlife caught in the flashlight beam, but I think the shape and color look much stranger. On February 6, 2024, YouTuber Carlos Costa set up a trail camera on his Brazilian property, deep in the forest. He had been hearing strange noises at night and wanted to capture whatever was making them. Then, one night, his camera recorded this: a completely black creature moving quickly on all fours, smaller and faster than what people typically describe as Bigfoot. When the footage zoomed in, what looked like a snout and teeth became visible. Many viewers immediately thought of a werewolf, Brazil has a long history of such legends, especially in rural forest, including stories of the lobisomem, a creature said to transform under the full moon and hunt in the wilderness. The size, speed, and movement of this figure seem to match those old tales. At the start of this year, after a series of heavy snowstorms, unusually large footprints were discovered in the snowy woods of New York. They looked human, but their size and shape were far too large to belong to any ordinary person. Wildlife experts suggested they could belong to a bear, but the length, shape, and human-like appearance didn't match typical bear tracks. Although these prints looked like the work of a mysterious creature moving through the snow, it was most likely just a trick of nature. Someone shared footage believed to have been captured back in 1963, showing what is now referred to as the Harlan Ford Bigfoot, one of the oldest known Bigfoot sightings on film. Harlan Ford was a retired man who spent much of his time exploring the wilderness with a camera. During one of these outings, he claimed to have encountered something unusual. According to him, the creature stood around 7 feet tall, covered in grey hair with striking red eyes. He also described a strong, foul odor, and even more strangely, footprints with webbed toes, a detail that sets this sighting apart from more typical Bigfoot reports. A woman recently claimed to have captured an image of Bigfoot during her walk. After recovering from the shock and fear of seeing it in the woods, she managed to take the photo. So, is this a genuine glimpse of Bigfoot in the wild? Without more information, it's always hard to say. A person was walking through a forest when something unusual caught their eye. As they focused, the shape became clearer, unusually clear for a Bigfoot video. A large, hairy figure was walking steadily, almost completely unbothered, as if it didn't even notice the observer. That alone makes it hard to believe, because why would Bigfoot really be captured this clearly and act so unbothered? So it could be a costume, or even AI. But who knows? A hiker in the remote mountains of British Columbia was taking photos when, on a distant slope, they noticed a dark, massive figure silhouetted against the forested terrain. The sheer size and shape of the figure closely matched descriptions of Bigfoot. Because the figure was so far away, it was difficult to determine exactly what it was, leaving plenty of room for speculation. British Columbia's mountains are notorious for their vast wilderness, making them the perfect setting for strange and mysterious encounters. Over the years, numerous Bigfoot sightings have been reported there, and this one adds to the growing list. But you can't rule out the possibility that it was just a trick of the eye. Reddit user ExpensiveOpening92 shared a story about his brother's 25-acre ranch near Texarkana, Texas, bordering the Sulphur River bottoms. The area has long been associated with reports of Bigfoot and is home to the famous folk monster legend. One evening at dark, a man named Luke was trimming weeds near the property's back fence when something suddenly began throwing objects from the nearby tree line. At first, he thought someone might be hiding in the woods, but what truly unsettled him was where the objects seemed to be coming from. According to Luke, they were being thrown from high up in the trees, from more than 30 feet away, and were striking the nearby metal building. The encounter frightened him enough that he immediately called the brother to warn them. It wasn't the first unusual experience reported on the ranch either. On another occasion, the brother said he had heard a loud snort coming from above the tree line before sunrise, making him feel as though something was watching him from an elevated position. There is no evidence that Bigfoot or any other unknown creature was responsible, but whatever was throwing those objects, it was enough to convince Luke to leave the area. Now, if you enjoyed this Bigfoot video, you'll love this next one.